Babylon, that prostitute on many waters. Ooh, such a subject. And also, what to stay away from. What kind of teachings, ideas go around in the Messianic Jewish world that are nonsense, that are a bunch of hogwash, teachings and doctrines that are misguided. So I have enjoyed our conversations since I arrived 2 nights ago. Right, we've had lots of wonderful talks, and I've learned so much from you guys. It's really been a pleasure in our discussions. And I've chosen 3 or 4 different subject matters that are going around in the Messianic Jewish world that are just, a big waste of time, and to say the least. But also can be quite harming and destructive as well. So you have informed me that whatever we don't finish this morning, we can continue after lunch as well. And as well as the subject for after lunch, we will see how we merge these subjects together. So one thing if it's the first time with me, I talk too much. That's good. Okay, good. Thank you. Because I really enjoy the problems, the questions, the apparent inconsistencies, the mysteries of Scripture. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of things that are difficult to understand in Scripture. And it just so happens also to be often congregated in one great book, the book of the Apocalypse. The book of Revelation is one of those biblical texts that has been, of course, studied for thousands of years, and has had so many different teachings and ideas coming from them that have structured people's belief concerning things to come. What do we expect to happen? And that, depending on the, I would say, personality of the congregation, that can really dictate, control what people believe, and that we also even take over people's focus. Right? There's so many different Christian communities that have been so focused on things to come, right? The study of things to come, and the apocalyptic focus of life, the end of the world, the end of human history. And I don't know if that dominates your thinking. I don't think so, because it hasn't really come up that much in conversation over the last couple of times. But maybe you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people whose focus is just on the end times all the time, focused and talking about it, and have mapped out in great detail what is going to happen and when. And if you don't agree with how things are going to happen, well, too bad for you. You're probably going to be lost in the tribulations that are coming. Because if you don't agree with me, you're not saved. And by the way, if you don't agree with me, you're not saved either. Yeah? Just be very clear. All right, be very clear. If you disagree with me, then we're going to be in the tribulations of hell together. So no. I wanted to also say, as we begin, that I enjoy also to hear from you, that if you have comments that you would like to add to whatever I'm saying as we go along today, really don't wait for later. Just raise your hand and interrupt, and we can hear your voice as we go. That's useful to build up and to construct our conversation. Otherwise, if it's just me talking too much, it gets a little boring, and you will fall asleep, I'm sure. So add your thoughts, all right, and your questions. If there's something that's not making sense or not clear from what I'm saying, then just don't wait till later, all right? Just ask and add comment as we go. That, I think, is useful. So, in thinking about this question of who is Babylon the Great? Who is this great prostitute that sits over many waters? Well, then the simple answer is it's Rome. Rome is this great power that is introduced as Babylon in Revelation chapter 14. And it builds up, the idea, the theme gets added to as those chapters unfold from 14 through to its ultimate destruction in chapter 19. And there's a great lament over the great city, the powerful city that sits on many, many waters. And we're told specifically, what does that mean? What does it mean to sit on many waters? And thankfully, we're also told that the waters represent the nations. All right? So, therefore, sitting on many waters means sitting on many nations. And that is a theme that is not unique to this book of Revelation. It's shared idea that the rabbinic writings uses in form of parable. That just as the waves of the sea keep breaking on the seashore and on the land, so also the waves of the armies from the nations keep coming against the people of Israel. That is represented by the land. So in parable form, when we're talking symbolically, when we're talking about the relationship, the tumultuous relationship between Israel and the nations, Israel is represented by the land, and the nations are represented by the sea in rabbinic parable form. And that's also articulated in the book of Revelation quite very directly, so we know how to interpret the language. The language that dominates the book of Revelation to be very symbolic. From the very beginning, the language of this writing is meant to be not taken literally. And that has been one of the great problems of historical Christian interpretations, is taking it literally where it is not meant to be.
Metaphors.
Metaphors, symbols, codes. Okay? Why communicate in code? Well, if Babylon the Great is representing Rome, it's maybe not such a great idea to prophesy the destruction of Rome. Rome is, after all, the great power that is covering all around the Mediterranean world. So many nations and peoples. And they have extended their power through the might of their legions. All right? And they have many legions, many different armies throughout the empire, by which, as an iron rod, they crush everyone. No one is able to withstand their combination of discipline as a professional army, the training over many years for soldiers to be disciplined very, very strongly, together with military method and strategy, right? Together with technology, that powerful formulation by which they updated the already very successful Greek method of conquest, as the Greeks were successful in destroying the previous great empire of the Persians. Right? Persia, modern-day Iran. Right? The Persian Empire being so great, so vast, so magnificent, and conquering Greece. But Greece ultimately destroys them. How? Well, there's very sweet ways, but the military might of strategy only gets upgraded and updated as these powers grow. So the Romans, they are ultimately so successful, so powerful, as an iron rod, just as the prophet Daniel described. As Daniel interprets in chapter 2, he interprets this great vision that the king of Babylon, named Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon has this terrifying vision, Daniel chapter 2. And he doesn't know how to understand it and how to interpret it. And so he gathers together all his wise people, all of his magicians, all of the elite of the empire. And like Joseph, asked for an interpretation. But unlike Pharaoh, in the story of Joseph, he requires his wise, prove to me that you know what you're talking about. Prove to me the power of your intellect. Prove to me your control over magic. By telling me my dream. Not only do I want you to interpret my dream, I want you to tell me my dream. course, they are beside themselves. But long story short, they're all going to die because they can't interpret the dream, and the king knows that if I tell you, you're just going to tell me what I want to hear. You're just going to manipulate me and tell me, how do I know that I can trust your interpretation? So therefore, you need to tell me both the dream and the interpretation. And it will be Daniel who takes the time, because he's going to die also, by the way. So he takes the time and asks his other friends to pray. And in prayer doesn't mean to talk to God nonstop. It means listen. Meditatively listen and receive understanding, receive the vision, receive the knowledge that is otherwise not accessible. So that when he comes to Nebuchadnezzar, it's not me. There's no human being that can do what you're asking of me. But there is a God in heaven who does. Unlike all the gods of the empire. And he has revealed what is your dream and its interpretation. And so he has, therefore, this vision of this magnificent statue, starting with a head of gold. And he tells, you are the head of gold. You, the King of kings, who rules all creation. You are this head of gold. But after you, by the way, sorry, there's going to be one after you. He's going to be not of gold, but silver, a little less. And then after them, it's going to be bronze. And after them, it's going to be iron. And we can trace, therefore, if Daniel tells us that the beginning point is Babylon, who takes over Babylon is going to be Persia. They're silver. Who takes over Persia? Greece. And they're bronze. Bronze is much stronger than silver or gold, right? Bronze is going to be the power, might to conquer, right? But who takes over Greece? Rome. And Rome, who can compete with the iron rod, as Daniel calls it, that will smash and crush everything. So Rome is this iron legs. But who comes after the legs? You know, the thighs, the legs, and then eventually the feet. It's going to be iron mixed with clay. And he tells us, just as clay and iron do not mix, so also that last kingdom is going to be very weak. It's still going to be Rome. It's still iron, so it's still Rome. So what kingdom is this? From Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, who comes next in history? Who defeats Rome and continues to be Rome? The Ottoman Empire ultimately defeats them. Yes, you're right. But they're not going to be Rome. They don't identify as Rome. All right, so the vision has to continue to be Rome, but now Rome is mixed with something else, mixed with clay that makes them weak. So the Muslims don't identify as Rome. They will be the ones who ultimately defeat them. So who's this last kingdom that Daniel interprets that the king of Babylon sees? Well,
Syria.
Syria? Why Syria?
The King Cyrus.
Mm-hmm. Cyrus is Persia.
Persia,
Cyrus is Persia. Yes. And he's going to send the exiles of Israel back to the land. So we like him, actually. Well, in the time of Yeshua and the writing of the apostolic scriptures, Rome is thoroughly, well, we like to call them pagan. Right? They worship the created, essentially. And in the 4th century, the beginning of the 4th century, a certain war comes to an end. From the 1st century through to the beginning of the 4th century, Rome has been very busy trying to eradicate the most serious danger to Roman power. And that is what will become known as Christianity. Christianity, as it will become known, are going to be the greatest threat. But not a threat bearing sword. How does Christianity threaten the might the iron rod of Rome? It's a really important question. So that by the time you come to the 4th century, that war is over. The Romans stopped persecuting the Christians. They stopped slaughtering the Christians for entertainment. And they give legitimacy. This is Emperor Constantine gives legitimacy to the Christian people. Now, no longer are they to be executed and murdered.
They used it.
What?
They used it.
They become it.
Yeah.
They become it. So now they're allowed to build churches, and so now you have pagan temples and Christian churches. And by the end of the same century, paganism is now illegal. Christianity has thoroughly defeated paganism in the hearts and minds of the Roman Empire
Without any war.
without any war, no sword.
No sword.
Now that they bear, by the end of the century, they bear the sword, the power, the authority of the Roman emperor and the Roman legion. So now paganism is illegal, and they dismantle all those temples and replace them with churches. And so now the Roman Empire becomes the Holy Roman Empire. Eventually becomes the Holy Roman Empire. So they identify as Romans. Okay? Now, if you're studying history, you'll learn about the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire. But they didn't call themselves Byzantines. Historians, modern historians call them Byzantines in order to distinguish them from their pagan origins. They're no longer Roman pagans, now they're Roman Christians. And why Byzantine is because that emperor, Emperor Constantine, chooses a little fishing village, Byzantium. He chooses the place Byzantium and rebuilds it as a mighty, mighty city, a second capital for the empire. And renames it after himself, Constantinople. And that city continues to endure for another 1,000 years, until finally the Ottomans. Finally the Ottomans conquer Constantinople and rename it Istanbul, the capital of Turkey today. So Istanbul is that city, Constantinople, that started as a fishing town, Byzantium. All right, so they didn't call themselves Byzantines. Forget about Byzantium, it's Constantinople, the mighty and powerful. They call themselves Romans, but now Christian Romans. And as the empire is so strong and powerful, they split the Roman Empire into two halves, the eastern and the western, and with two capitals. In the east is Byzantium, now Constantinople, the city of Constantinople, and in the west is Rome. But unified as one empire, but two halves. Okay? Now it is a Christian empire with two halves and two functional languages. In the east, the language that people speak is Greek. In the west, the language that people speak is Latin. And the culture is very different also. The language is different, the culture is different. We're all Christian. We're all one universal church. And universal is Catholic. Catholic means universal. We, the empire, are the church, the universal church, for all the nations to be unified in one church. When you align yourself in the truth, and there's one truth, the straight path, and that is orthodoxy. The word orthodox means straight path of truth. And we define that truth by our councils, where all of the bishops gather, the heads of the different cities of the empire, who are also the heads of the churches in those cities. They gather together to debate over what is the truth. You have a lot of questions, and we need to define what is true and what's false. And that whatever debates emerge within the church, within the theological questions, the bishops gather together in church councils to decide what is true and what's false. and that all the peoples the universal church have to agree on that one truth that is decided by these councils. And if you can't agree, you're on the outside. You get discommunicated, you're excommunicated, and they form new independent churches. And so there's going to be many different churches, Eastern churches, Syrian church, Egyptian, Ethiopian, many churches that emerge and develop as a result of not being able to agree with the church councils of the Roman Empire. Okay, so it's the Catholic Orthodox Church. That is the one church. And in Daniel's interpretation of the king of Babylon's vision, they are, what are they? If Rome is iron, what is this Christian empire now? It's iron with clay. And it has made this great statue weak. Weak to the point that he sees something more. He sees a stone chiseled out. And that stone is going to be cast against this great statue, and it's going to destroy it. A statue of many different parts, gold, silver, bronze, iron, clay. It's not one material, and therefore it's weak, and it's going to be destroyed by just taking a stone, casting it against it. And as you cast it against this, and it dismantles, it falls apart. And the stone becomes a mountain. So Daniel doesn't see, the king of Babylon doesn't see Islam. Doesn't see Islam. We see Islam because we look back in history. So we know the Muslims. They didn't see Islam. What do they see destroying the final phase of this world history of powers that get greater and greater? Each power gets greater and controls more nations, more peoples, as the seas cover the nations, and of the power of the centralized government. What brings an end to this world history that Daniel interprets the vision to be? What is this? What is this stone? Who is this stone? What? Who? Louder?
The Messiah.
The Messiah. The rock. Yes. That ancient name for the God of Israel. The rock who followed us through the desert. Who is the Messiah? But wait a minute. Messiah. In Hebrew, Mashiach. In Greek, Christos. What does it mean? What's anointed. You take a cup of coffee and you pour it over a man. Hopefully not too hot. And he becomes a living cup of coffee. Oh wait, no, not coffee. I mean olive oil, right? Well, such a strange ritual, such a strange practice. Why did ancient Israel take olive oil, pour it over somebody, make them immune? Specifically, into the office of high priest, leading the priesthood, and in the office of kingship, leading the kingdom. Why? Why olive oil? Any ideas? Why do you take olive oil? Why not wine? Oh, that would be nice. Why not coffee? Okay, they didn't come to the Philippines, they didn't have good coffee. So, what do you think? Why olive oil? I don't think you have traditionally so much olive trees here in the Philippines, right? In my travels through the mountains, I didn't see any. I saw lots of trees, didn't see any olive trees, right? So, olive.
They use it for lamp.
Yeah.
Light.
Yes. Thank you. Not only do you enjoy eating the fruit after a few months, but you crush the olive for oil, and the oil is now going to be used for light.
No.
Okay.
Outside this room.
What?
And also for us to get the pure oil from the oil, there's a lot of process, right? So same as with God, He keeps on crushing us so that we can produce what's best for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's take a sub trail, leave our subject for just a moment and go with that a little bit more. Where is it that Yeshua will be praying to God that if there's any way, other way for me to accomplish the mission for which you sent me, please take this cup from me. If there's any other way, please take it. But if there's no other way, I will drink it. Where does he pray this?
Gethsemane.
And what is the meaning of Gethsemane? The word, you know what the word means? In
The
Hebrew,
olive.
gat shemani. Shemin is oil. Very good. Shemin is oil. And what is gat? Gethsemane is gat shemani. Gat is what you just described. It's a big rock stone. You pour the olives on it with another big rock, round stone that rolls, and you crush all the olives.
Olive press.
So,
Olive press.
well,
Ah.
first is the olive crushing. Then you gather the crushed olives, put them in a sack, and then you press them. You put them under the weight of the wood, and then you get the more oil. And then once that's done, you add stone weights, big stone weights. You saw it when you were in Israel.
Yeah.
And so you have a second pressing, a third pressing, a fourth pressing. And depending on those pressing, the different qualities of the oil. The first crushed olives are the best. You use that for sacred use unto God. It's the most pure, best
Perfume.
Huh? Perfume? No. That's a nice question. What would you use? What would you use the best for?
Is this one you read?
Yes, thank you. That. Show this around. Pass that around.
I could pick two. Millstone. Is it the millstone?
That is it. There's different types of millstones. This one is for olives. This one is for olives. So when you're reading about millstones, don't always think this. There's different types, depending on what you're crushing. So grains will be milled differently.
Gillingan.
This needs to be really heavy because the seed of the olives is really hard. And so there's different types. So what are you going to use the best for? Well, obviously I'm going to use it for myself because I like the best for me, of course. But if I am going to be instructed, led by instruction of Scripture, then I'm going to give the best to God. How do I give it to God? Yes, you're right. So I'm giving it as my tithe, the 10th of it. I'm going to give it. And so therefore it's going to be used in the house of God. And in what way is it used in the house of God? Like you said, burning as light in God's house on the menorah. On the menorah, the candelabra. On the lampstand. All right, and then otherwise the other crushings is lesser and lesser and lesser qualities. You then use it for what is going to be most important, and that's nourishment. But you want the best quality, put in your body. So the first pressings are going to be for nourishment. It's very good fat, like your nice avocados, okay, or your nice coconuts, good fat, right? We have the olive oil, that's good fat. We need this. And then maybe lesser quality on the skin. Like you said, perfume, mix, or medicine, or cleansing. Okay? So what depending on the quality, you change the use. So therefore, it is such an important commodity. It is such a critical use because we use it throughout the day for different functions. So what you use in your culture, what you depend on most, then you extract that for ritual use because it's so important to you. It becomes used in a ritual form so to communicate that value to one another and to future generations, so that future generations know how important this is to our culture. So therefore, you take it and you pour it over a man. And that man is no longer a man. He is now a high priest. He's no longer just a common like you and I. He is now a king. So what message are you saying in this ritual? What are you communicating in this ritual? Okay? So what you use olive oil for, now that's your responsibility as a person, as a man in this office. If you use olive oil for light, if you use olive oil for nourishment, for cleansing, and for healing, right? Like Paul says, if you're sick, anoint with oil and pray. It's the basis of medicine, olive oil. It's the basis of medicine. So you use medicine and you pray. So now we're talking about a man's work, your responsibility. What do you do? In this office of priest and king, you bring forth both physical and spiritual light, nourishment, healing, cleansing. You do these things for the people that you are responsible for. And that's the title of anointed one. And from this emerges the title of the King of Israel. So when we talk about Pharaoh, when we talk about Caesar, then we are talking about, we know, specific kingdoms. Egypt, Rome. When we talk about Christos, King of who? Louder?
The Jews.
The Jews, Israel.
But that's his crime.
What?
That was his crime.
Oh, that's his crime. Yeshua will be executed as King of the Jews. Right? And now we start to come a little bit closer to the problem of the book of Revelation. Because there can be only one head of the empire. There can be only one Caesar. Oh dear. The Jewish people are not able to fulfill the requirement of the law. That if you are a citizen of Rome, if you bear the mark of the beast of Rome, you must worship its image in order to be a citizen and not die. So, the beast, of course, represents the empire, the kingdom, and its image, its representation that you worship. And that, how does Rome spread its power? Well, it's not enough to just conquer. You use an iron rod to conquer, to crush, defeat the people, yes, but how do you convert them from being your enemy to being one of you, to be a loyal subject who will actually love you? How do you spread Romanization? Well, they spread it successfully when they became an empire under a dictator, where the Caesar, the dictator, is now going to be worshipped as God, the Son of God. And the first Augustus will be the savior of the empire, because things were really, really bad in the empire before. They were exploiting the people so badly that the people's really resentment. They really are not happy. And there's all sorts of civil wars. Things are really bad for the empire in the 1st century BC. And thus the last civil war emerges with a new ruler who becomes dictator. And he becomes known as Augustus. And he saves the empire by changing things. And now the temples are going to start to be built in his honor to worship this Caesar Augustus, the Son of God, this Savior. And through those temples, the peoples of the empire, such as the most important part of the empire, because it's the wealthiest province of the empire, Turkey of today, or Asia Minor in those days. That landmass of Turkey, where Asia and Europe meet one another, and the peoples, the languages, the cultures, the technologies of East and West meet each other. This is going to be the most important part of the empire. Then Egypt, because that's where all your bread comes from. But the wealth of Asia Minor, Turkey, are going to be building these temples in the worship of Caesar. And through those temples spread not only the language, but also the love of empire. Where you worship the emperor and the empire in its image, in their statues, the idols. And in this way, they started to unify the many different peoples under one rule, one culture of Rome. And they unified in the worship of the image of Rome and its emperor. Okay? So now things start changing. And people actually love the empire. And but to be a citizen of the empire, you're required to do this. You're required to worship the image. You're required to worship the emperor. And if you don't, be weary. You will lose your life. So, if we have now this really critical competition emerging, where the Jewish people are the one people that are also spread throughout the empire, and they do appreciate and enjoy Roman technology, Roman sophistication. It's really definitely an advancement forward, but they have one problem. What can the Jews not do? Till today, we can't do it, but back then especially problematic. What can Jewish people not do that all the other nations could do?
Worship another God.
Worship another God. We all worship gods. The Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, not a big deal. You worship your gods, you can also worship my gods. And we can worship them together. And we mix them, we syncretize, we mix them. We compare. Oh, your chief god is very similar to my chief god. We can join the names together. And we can compare, we can see, oh, actually it's not so different what we worship. And so the nations merge in this way, becoming Greek and becoming Roman. But the Jews are not able to do this. They don't worship the many, many gods. They worship the creator, the invisible, the otherwise unknown. And in their temple, they don't have an image. It looks empty. They have a temple. They're very strange people. Your house of your God, it's empty. There's no one in there. Maybe he went on a trip somewhere. Where is he? Did you loan him out to another museum? So, therefore, starting with Caligula and Nero, others, the Jewish people face annihilation. If you don't worship, you will be annihilated. And God has to save them from this problem. And eventually, they find a peaceful, compromise. Because the Romans respected ancient religion, ancient worship. And the Jews have an ancient worship. So what's important to the Romans is the fathers. All right? And the Jews have a long genealogy. So therefore they have a certain level of respect. And they're able to compromise, okay, we will not require you to worship us and our gods. And the Jews will agree to worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and pray to him to bless Caesar. So we make a sacrifice every day to the God of Israel to bless Caesar. That's the compromise. So that we know you're loyal, you're not really a problem. We don't have to be too worried about you. You're still under our empire, you're still under our rule, and you're not, it's okay. It's good enough. What? You're not against us. You're praying to your God to bless ours. Okay, fine. So that's how they reconcile the problem. Well, they're the only exception. They're the only exception. Now emerges a new problem, where the Jews are still, especially in Judea, very unhappy against the Romans, because the Romans are really harsh, exploiting very heavily. And they are waiting for, they have a hope from the ancient prophets that promise them that God will restore the fallen tent of their great king, David. David, the anointed David, the great king that God made a covenant with. Your throne will be an eternal throne. You will always have a son on your throne. The dynasty of David is to be forever.
The Davidic kingdom.
The Davidic kingdom, right? But that becomes problematic. His son, Solomon is great, but oh dear. And as a result of Solomon's sin, the kingdom divides. But God said, your son will be my son. I will be his father, he will be my son. And thus, the terminology of how do you refer to the king of Israel? Like we said before, the anointed one. In Hebrew, Mashiach. In Greek, because now in the Roman era, most Jews are going to be speaking Greek, so Christos. But I don't, when you talk about, therefore, the Mashiach or the Christos, you're talking about the king of Israel, not the king of Rome. This is specific. That nation, that kingdom, that dynasty, the house of David. You're talking about that king, that kingdom. And now we have hundreds of years where God's word, his covenant oath to David, is put under question. Has God failed? Has he broken covenant to us? Yes, we broke covenant first, but he said it's eternal. Because of our unfaithfulness, we are destroyed, but he promised that he would restore us. That in his faithfulness, he would restore us. But wait a minute, we have hundreds of years of no son of David on the throne. That's a serious problem for the Jews. And now, come through the first century, we can understand and appreciate why they love the son of David born in Bethlehem so much. Where Yeshua, the Nazarene, but born in Bethlehem, is the line of David, and he is righteous, he is just. And he's teaching the Torah, and it's a light burden, it's accessible, we can do it. It's not making it impossible, he's making it very accessible.
I did study about sending a branch.
Yes, yes, the Tzemach, very, very nice. So, you're quoting for us Zechariah, chapter 4 and 5, 3, 4, 5, and also Jeremiah, and also Isaiah. There is this image of a very humble plant that's going to grow. Very humble beginnings, and it grows to something great. And from Isaiah is the stump of Jesse.
Of Jesse.
Right? The stump of the father of David. And this is another of the image of the olive tree, once again. The olive tree to give you the oil to anoint the king. But now the tree is cut. There's no more king, there's no more son of David on the throne, the stump is cut. So what do? Well, there's something special about the tree, the olive tree, that you can take a branch that's passed to the ground, and you can take it and you can replant it, like you told me also. But it's also true for the olive tree. You can replant it, and the same genetic olive tree is going to grow up. So from the cut tree of the dynasty is now cut, and hundreds of years are passed, but where is that branch? Where is the branch that will be replanted and rerooted? This, of course, is identified with Yeshua. The replanting of the same tree, the same dynasty from hundreds of years ago, and it will take root once again. And therefore, this olive tree that grows. And now this olive tree is going to be not only Israel, it's also going to be all the loyal from the nations grafted into the olive tree. So it's a beautiful image, a beautiful vision. But it's a problem. Because you have these people who are hoping for their king to take the throne, as opposed to Caesar. So there are problems. There's problems. Now let's take a note. I said something that you didn't resist, and I wasn't happy about that. I said something that's problematic. I said the Christ is known to be the King of Israel. What's the problem with that statement? Is that a historical statement? When you are talking with a Christian mindset, Christian historical mindset, is that really what comes to mind when you say Christ? Do you mean King of Israel?
No.
Dad.
What? I didn't hear you.
The Pope.
The Pope. Okay, thank you. That's good enough. Right? What was in the beginning is no longer. It's no longer the message that's conveyed that the anointed Christ is the King of the Jews. That's why Yeshua was executed by Rome. But things have changed, right? Or am I wrong? King of the universe. Okay, that's good. But it's not what goes through Jewish people's minds. When we say Christ, Jewish people do not mean the Messiah, son of David, that we're waiting for. All right, so back to that vision of Babylon. The king of Babylon receives this great statue of the world's empires. And the final phase of the world's empires is Rome, that is now Christian. Christian Rome, iron and clay mixed together. Is that the eternal kingdom that Daniel sees? No, he says it's belonging to the same statue. It belongs to the same image that is going to be worshipped. The image of the beast that's going to be worshipped. It belongs to one and the same. And the whole image is going to be destroyed by that rock. One little rock cast against it is going to destroy the whole image. And it becomes a great mountain. That one rock becomes a great mountain. And that mountain is going to be a great kingdom that is going to be an eternal kingdom. Yeah, thank you, very good. Yes, it's a nice representation of the image that will be worshipped. The image of the empires of the world, the beast of the world.
Then divided.
Nice, yes. That he develops that further. Yes, so that it will be 10 horns.
10 horns.
10 horns. And the horns, each horn is another king. It's an image from Daniel, carried on into Revelation. All right, that there's the beast has horns, and these horns are kings in power. Kings. Yes. So, what kingdom, therefore, is going to be the eternal kingdom?
Kingdom of Israel.
That's a hard thing to say. I'm not using it because it sounds better for you than it sounds for me. The kingdom of Israel. Why? Why should the kingdom of Israel? We were destroyed by God again and again by the kingdoms of the world. Why should the kingdom of Israel be this eternal kingdom? Why should it be the everlasting kingdom? Who is its king? Who is the king of Israel? Before we can name him as Yeshua, because yes, I agree with you, but before we can name him, who claims to be the king of Israel? Already in the desert.
I am.
I am. The great I am. God himself. That's my name. Right? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's my name forever, my memory forever. And therefore, he warns Israel, you don't need a human king. They're not going to be so great. They really like their taxes. They really like your daughters. They really like your men as their army to expand their power. You don't need a human king. But God, we really, really want taxes. We love taxes, God. God, we really love giving our daughters to the king to be, the 900th wife, the 999th wife, to be the 1,000th wife of great Solomon. We really love giving our sons to be the armies of the king. We really love this. Please give us a king that we can be like all the nations. Please, God, please. Okay, fine, these foolish people. So now God has to raise up a king who's going to have a heart like God's own. A man after God's own heart. And that's going to be David. David is going to be the one who understands what it is to be the Lord's anointed. And therefore, when his father-in-law chases him and wants to kill him because Israel wants David to be the next king and not his son Jonathan, so Saul tries to kill David. And David, when he comes to an understanding of what it is to be the anointed, he puts his sword down in any day. He puts his sword down. And he bows before the king. Here I am. Strike me down. That's why I bow. Why do you bow before the power? Why do you bow before the king? Why do you bow before God? You expose yourself. I am at your disposal. If you want to kill me, I willfully put my life down before you. I am in service to you. I'm serving you. And he puts his life down before Saul. And he says, wait, Saul, you want to kill me. You're chasing a dead dog. You're chasing a flea on a dead dog. That's who I am. Why are you chasing me? You are the Lord's anointed. Is that what you're supposed to be doing as the Lord's anointed? The greatest warrior of the age puts his sword down with the revelation, the understanding that you don't take that position to be the Lord's anointed. You don't take it by the sword. And his son, not Solomon, but his great son will come to say, he who lives by the sword will also die by it. If you take the kingdom, if you take the kingship by the sword, then what image do you belong to? That image of Babylon? Sorry. The image of Babylon? That's how they take the kingdoms. How does the gold get replaced by the silver? By the sword. How does the silver get replaced by the bronze? By the sword. How does it get replaced by Rome and Iron Rome? By the sword.
It means war. War force.
I take it. Because I am powerful enough to do so. But the anointed of the Lord, the King of Israel, is following a different principle. And Yeshua articulates what David said to Saul. Put the sword down. And therefore, when Yeshua stands before Pilate, the sword of Rome, the power of Rome, that image of Babylon, what does Yeshua say to Pontius Pilate, who holds the sword of Rome, the power of life and death? My kingdom is a different place, a different kingdom. And if I call for my Father, he will send legions. You can't take me. I'm putting my life down by will. Just as David put his life down, so also Yeshua is putting his life down by will. He chooses to drink that cup. Or when he was in Gethsemane, how did he become the king? In Gethsemane, when he was praying to God, how do you become king? You don't have olive oil if you don't crush the olives. First you crush the olives, then you press them, and that is the process by which you become king. You choose the suffering. You choose to be crushed by God. You choose to be pressed until the oil of blood is seeping through your skin. Yeshua is choosing in this way to put his life down, and that is how, by drinking the cup of suffering, is how you become the king of Israel, the anointed of Israel. So you have. It's a good place. You were there. He prays at the question of kingship, the question of who is going to rule the kingdom, determines the nature of the kingdom. What kind of kingdom is this going to be like? Babylon the Great. The gold of this one image that ultimately, in Yeshua's day, is Rome. Because it's the same, they take the power in the same way. They rule in the same way. The nature of the empire is essentially the same. Different culture. From Babylon to Rome, it's a different culture. And then to Christian Rome, it's a different culture, but it's the same nature that rules the nations. And so there was this fantastic contrast of two kingdoms. One has an end, the other is eternal. So that was, as God becomes the king of Israel, he establishes his kingdom, his rule in Israel, where his throne is in the heavens and his footstool is on the earth. That through Israel, he rules all of his creation. All the nations is God's desire. All the nations is God's goal. Because all the nations are what to God? But his sons. Right? So back to when God is establishing his kingdom in Israel, he has to take Israel out of Egypt. Out of Egypt I have taken my son. And how does he call Israel to Pharaoh in Egypt? How does he refer to Israel?
My people.
My people. And if you don't let my people go, there's going to be consequences. You have enslaved my people. And they are my firstborn son. Israel, my firstborn son. So if you don't let go of my firstborn son, I will take your firstborn son. And that's what is the 10th plague, is the slaying of the firstborn son, and the exchange takes place. Well, if Israel as a nation is God's firstborn son, does God have one son?
The natural son.
He's a natural son, but he's only the firstborn.
Has many.
There's many! And who are the many other sons? We're talking about nations now. Israel as a nation is my firstborn son, and therefore all the nations,
will be blessed too by
how are they going to be blessed?
Adoption.
Yeshua is the king of Israel, but
By
Israel is the
adoption.
firstborn son, and therefore what are all the nations?
By adoption.
Adoption as sons.
Galatians 3.
What?
Galatians 3. Your heirs according to promise.
Heir, yes.
Fellow
Common heir,
heirs.
fellow heirs.
Fellow heirs, yes. Adopted as fellow heirs. So therefore the nations are what to God? I just want to make sure we say it very clearly. Also the sons of God.
Sons of God.
Also the sons of God. We're talking about the family metaphor, where the king is the father. And do we need to answer something else? So the kingdom is a family metaphor now, where the king is the father, and all the people of the kingdom are the sons of the father. But in this case, the father is God himself. And the people desire a human king, someone that they can see, to lead them. And therefore, now when God makes a covenant with David, saying that your son is going to be my son, I will be his father. Now within the structure of the king of Israel, the king of Israel is the firstborn son of God. So David and Solomon, they're the firstborn son of God, where the rest of the people of Israel are the family, the other sons. And within the family structure, the culture of the family structure, and you let me know if it's the same here or not, but in the Middle East, the firstborn son is representing the father in name and in deed. So whatever the father says, you do. Whatever the firstborn son says, it's as though the father said it. You do it. You're loyal to your father, you're loyal to the firstborn son. And the firstborn son's responsibility is to protect you, is to provide for you, to lead you. So you have a responsibility to one another. Firstborn son is responsible for you, and you are loyal to do what he says because it's for our good. And so the kingdom of Israel is structured like a family. But the king who sits on the throne is the firstborn son of God. God is the ultimate king. He's the king of kings. Okay? That's why, therefore, when Yeshua emerges from the water,
Yeah.
when he emerges from the water.
Today you have become my son.
Louder.
Today you have become my son.
The voice from heaven, God saying, "Who is this man coming up from the water?"
My son.
And what does that mean? As a
This
son.
is my son whom I am well.
I'm well pleased, my beloved son. What does it mean? If you're hearing it from Jewish ears, it means he's the son of David. And it means he is the king of Israel. As the son of God, he's the king of Israel. So you have these two terms now. One term, to be called the son of God for Israel means to be the king of Israel. As the son of David is the son of God, the king of Israel. And how do you become the king of Israel? By being anointed into the office. And thus, these two terms are two cultural ways to refer to who is your king within the structure of Israel. Now that structure of Israel then expands, applied to all the nations. From a national level, Israel is unified as one nation as the firstborn son. God says to Pharaoh, "Israel, my firstborn son, let him go." In other words, God is saying to Pharaoh, "You're my son too. You're my son too, but you're not my firstborn son." The role is reversed. The Pharaoh, the God king, has enslaved his older brother, Israel. By the end of the ages, Egypt is going to be coming to Israel, to Jerusalem, to worship the God of Israel. The role gets reversed. It's not that one is better than the other, it's simply the proper relationship. Because the Father loves all the sons equally, of course. The Father loves all the sons equally. But there is the relationship. Israel is created in order to bring God's name to the nations, so that the nations will discover their Father and worship their Father whom they don't know. The nations are lost in worshiping all gods. They don't know their Creator. They don't know their Father. So in order to solve that problem, God creates Israel and calls Israel, "You're my firstborn son. To you, I will entrust my revelation." So to bring it to the nations, so that they can know me and worship me, their Father, and to know my love for them, right, as my children. Therefore, the beginning is with Israel. It's the hope to spread throughout all the nations to know the Father and to know the Father's love, and therefore be in relationship once again with the Father. But to do so, you have to step away from the kingdoms of the world. That starts with Babylon. Babylon the Great. All these kingdoms are enslaving the peoples to worship the image of false gods, false fathers. And there's no good love relationship there. The love relationship there is not a good love. And so this is that vision of the kingdom from Jerusalem that is to spread over all the nations, where we gather together as brothers. And that's how you have this progression. God as king. And the human king becomes his son. And they get corrupted. The human kings, they're corrupted. The sons of David, they're all corrupted. They lead us into destruction because they lead us into worship of false gods. And they corrupt justice. And therefore they corrupt our society. They corrupt our culture. They corrupt our morality. And we become like the nations around us. and even more corrupt than the nations around us, until God has to destroy us. But that destruction is likened unto a father's discipline of his son. So as the Babylonians come and destroy Israel, the Babylonians come as a tool in God's hand.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. So
Not in trouble.
I am thinking about how the Jewish people did not accept Yeshua as the anointed one, and based on what you told us, his appointment into that office is when he was baptized, and then God spoke and referred to him as his son. That means that he was instituted to his role as king, and I think that's where the ambiguity comes, or it becomes, it's not so plain to their eyes, because the way kings were anointed in the past is by maybe the prophet pouring oil on him, and then he's being declared as the king.
Yes.
But in his case, that is not what happened. So why do you think God did that? I mean, did he purposely not reveal this in a very clear and precise manner so that everybody will understand?
It's a very, very good, important question. And we need to correct one assumption. That is the historical assumption that everybody has. And that is the Jewish attitude towards Yeshua, towards Jesus. How did the Jews, according to the Gospels, how did they feel about him? Do they like him or not like him? Yes.
One, Yeshua, his teachings are against the oral tradition. So I think that's why they rejected Yeshua, because he's teaching a different way compared to their oral tradition. So that's one. So like what to do in Sabbath, of course Yeshua will heal people, and they're against that. So
That is a true statement, and it explains why certain Jews are not happy with him and don't like him and try to eventually kill him. But why do they try to kill him in secret? Remember the Gospels?
Multitudes.
Huh?
Multitudes follow him.
The multitudes follow him. You have the Jewish leaders, both the leaders of Pharisees and the leaders of Sadducees, when they get to the point that they decide we need to kill this guy, but they can't do it now because why? They're
The people.
not yet time,
They're afraid of the
but
people.
they're
but they're
afraid.
trying. But they're trying.
They're trying and they're afraid. They look for a way, but otherwise they just, why not just kill him right there and then? Who are they afraid of?
You don't want to create a martyr out of the situation.
Who would care? Who are they afraid of? You're right, but who are they afraid of?
The people.
people.
The people.
The people love.
The people love him. Who are the people?
People of Israel.
The people of Israel. The Jewish people love him. And so many Jewish people of Israel love him that they want to force him to be what?
The king.
They want to force him to be their king, Messiah.
Yeah, he was trying to escape.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make him king. So
So wait a minute, I'm confused. I thought the Jews rejected Jesus. But
yeah.
now you're telling me that they loved him and they wanted to force him to be their king? I'm not letting you go until you are my king.
Yeah.
But by the way, I hate you and I want to kill you. So what's going on here?
Only a certain.
Yeah, I have a passage for that.
Yeah.
Matthew
Yeah.
12 and 13. Like, a disciple asked Yeshua, why are you speaking in parables? And then Yeshua answered, because the kingdom was given to you and not to them. So you have the eyes and the ears to hear.
Yep.
So, yeah, okay, now, since you bring that up, Then we can go one step further. So we have to first of all recognize that the historical presentation is false.
Yeah.
The Jews did not reject Jesus. They love Yeshua so much that they make a problem for him. All right, the problem, what's the problem? You said it's not, the time has not yet come. For what? What time has not yet come? What's the problem?
He became a threat to the leaders, to the religious leaders, and also to the
Roman Empire.
empire.
Those things together. The problem, like we have been discussing, there can be only one Caesar.
Yeah.
There can be only one head of that image of Babylon the Great. There can be only one image of Rome. One head. And now you have within the empire emerging another nation, another kingdom, who has another king. That's a problem. You have to crush that. You have to destroy that. Don't let that weed take over the garden of the kingdom. So the Jews have such a high hope, such a desire for him, that how do the Jewish people welcome Yeshua into the city of Jerusalem?
With singing.
The palm branches.
We call it palaspas.
What?
Palaspas. Here.
Oh, palm branches.
Yeshua, son of David.
Save us now, son of David.
They expect us to think like a warrior who will.
They're shouting Hosanna.
Who will save us.
Hoshiana, save us. And maybe some of their expectations are wrong. Right? What they expect? What are they expecting?
Like Yoel and they were in Matthew 11, they're expecting a king. Like he's expecting someone who will save them.
Yes.
But Yeshua explained that it's a different way. It's not
A different way of what? How do you establish the kingdom? Well,
Conquest.
we assume that you have to take the kingdom by the sword, right?
Yeah. Expecting someone.
Of course. How else do you take the kingdom?
Yeah.
By the sword.
And also in Revelation 7, it says the mixed multitude, no? The throne before the Lamb, clothed in white with palm branches planted in their hands, and they cried out with a loud voice saying, salvation to our God who sits on the throne. And so it makes history will repeat itself.
What does palm branch mean for the Jewish people of Rome? Now, for this, we have help with archaeology. Okay? When the Romans crushed the Jewish people in the First War, in the year 70, Jerusalem is destroyed, the temple is destroyed. The Romans crush the great rebellion of the Jews. Started in the year 66, and in the year 70, it's almost over, the First Jewish War. And throughout the empire, the Jewish people will be punished. Throughout the whole empire, they will be punished for this war. And the punishment is you have to pay tax, an extra tax. You already have everybody's tax, but you have an extra tax. You have a tax for being Jewish.
Oh.
It's the Jewish tax. If you're Jewish, give me money. And the money you have to pay is a new coin. A new coin that humiliates the Jews with this spread of the propaganda of Judea Capta. Judea, the province of Judea, is captured. The war is over. And thus, now you have to, first of all, know you're captured and pay this coin of Judea Capta to an empire. And the province of Judea is represented by the olive, the palm tree. The palm tree is central in this coin, and it represents the province of Judea. And the people of Judea are represented as a woman who is subdued. She's hunched over, she's crying, she's subdued. The Jewish people are subdued. the Jewish people of Judea under the palm tree. And on the other side of the palm is the Roman soldier, the Roman legionnaire, who is powerful and mighty, who has suppressed the Jewish people of the province of Judea. And that coin is now spread throughout the empire as this message of what has happened and what you have to pay, this humiliation and this expense.
The king is supposed to be like this.
Yes, very good. Yes, indeed. So therefore, this now apply that back now to the triumphal entry of Yeshua. How do the Jewish people welcome him in? Is under waving the flag of the province. What's the flag of the province? It's the palm. The palm, to the Romans, the symbol means victory. To the Jews, and under Rome, it means the flag of Judea. It is a nationalistic symbol. So that in that triumphal entry, and then in Revelation that you quoted for us, the palm means we're victorious, and who are we? The kingdom of the Jews, the kingdom of Israel.
Amen.
Oh, I like that. So therefore, their hope of save us now, O Son of David. The problem is they forgot. What's their focus on David? A great warrior to defeat Rome. So therefore, how are you going to defeat Rome? You need to have a stronger sword than Rome. That's how you're going to save us. It is the question of which image of kingship, image of kingdom are we dealing with? Is it of Babylon, that image, that you take and conquer? Or what about David did they forget that Yeshua has to remind them? What did David do with Saul? How did David become the king? How did David
Humbled
He
himself.
humbled himself. He put his sword down. He humbled himself, he exposed himself, and used words of reason to communicate the truth. So also Yeshua. And that is the problem. The Jewish people loved him, wanted him to be their king, their Messiah, their Savior. But they lost themselves in the sword, forgetting how do you establish the kingdom. And therefore, Yeshua has this struggle. He has this problem that over the past 3 years, when he is introduced, and this emerging from the water, as he is introduced, back to the question. Whenever Yeshua heals somebody, and they're Jewish, there's a bit of a different reaction, there's a different instruction than when he heals somebody amongst the Greeks. Remember that guy who was lost to the demons of legions, living amongst the tombs, living in the Decapolis, the Greek cities. When Yeshua delivers him, he wants to follow Yeshua. He says, no.
Go back and tell them.
Go back and tell them. Tell them what happened. Tell them what you experienced. Propagate the message. As a testimony amongst the nations, amongst the Greeks, the nations. Go, spread the word. Something is happening here. Something amazing is happening. Let the nations know. In contrast, when he heals and delivers a Jewish amongst the Jews,
Don't tell anyone.
don't tell anyone. Hush, hush. Be quiet. Don't say a word. Why not? Why? What's going on? To the Greeks, let them know there's a king of Israel. To the Jews, don't say a word. Keep the secret. Why? Why keep the secret? What's the problem? My time has not yet come. He understands there is that in order to establish the kingdom, he has to be crushed. Go back to Gethsemane. He has to be crushed. He has to be pressed. He has to willfully choose to put the sword down and choose death. Because what he is accomplishing as Messiah is multi-layered. multi-layered. The way in which you become the anointed is by putting the sword down, not by conquest. I can easily call my Father and He will send legions. Easy, I can do that, no problem. You're going to be destroyed. But there is another power I have to defeat. What's the other power that has to be defeated? What is the difference between His kingdom, that stone that becomes the mountain, that destroys Babylon the Great? What's the difference between His eternal kingdom and this kingdom that is in this image of Babylon that culminates with Rome and Christian Rome? What's the difference?
The other kingdom, it grows weaker. This kingdom of Yeshua, it grows bigger.
Yes, okay, so what's the problem of these kingdoms? What is the weakness of these kingdoms of the world?
There's corruption and death.
Corruption that leads to death. And that corruption, where is the corruption? What is the corruption? And who is corrupt? Man himself. I am corrupt.
It's the image of a man. That
The image of a
entire
man.
thing.
Exactly. The image of the empire is that of a man. From the head to toes. Humanity is corrupt. We miss the mark. In our sin, what do we corrupt? Remember, sin is missing the mark. What do we corrupt in our sin? What do we corrupt in our sin? You're worshiping an image of God. In this, where's the image again? In your picture? The statue? You're worshiping it, and it looks like a man. Man has become God. What have we corrupted in our sin?
The relationship with
Our relationship with Adonai, our relationship with our Creator, and thus the revelation of the Torah. What does the Torah reveal to us that is so revolutionary to all other kingdoms? Humanity is worshiping
The
the
creation.
created,
The
creation, and ultimately ourselves. Our kings become gods.
We create,
We
they
worship ourselves.
create God from their image.
We create God in our image.
Yes.
Right. As opposed to the revelation of Torah, what does the Creator do?
Creates us in His
In
own
the
image.
Creates
image.
humanity, us, in His likeness, in His image. And therefore, the need for holiness. Holiness is separation from the corruption of humanity. We have to be separated from the problem in order to reveal the solution. And the solution is found where? Here. In humanity. But not humanity as is patterned after the kingdoms of the world. But humanity that is being shaped by God's word. Humanity that is living by God's word. Humanity that's living by God's commandments of righteousness and justice,
Amen.
the goodness, truth of God. So that when you look at humanity, when you look at husband and wife, when you look at a community that's made of many husband and wives, unified as one flesh, in which the image and likeness of God is most clearly seen.
Amen.
In not only one house, but many households, many families. And then many families become a unified culture, a unified society, and then a unified civilization, wherein the image and likeness of God is manifest. And therefore people live in such a way that the image of God is seen, and we worship Him. So in our life, how do we live? According to the scripture, according to the commandments, according to the instructions of God, it transforms how we are, how we live. And therefore, the kingdom has a different image. Instead of the image of God in humanity that's corrupt, now we have humanity who is no longer corrupted by sin. humanity is no longer disfiguring the image of God. And therefore, God's image, the eternal, the unseen, becomes seen in humanity. To accomplish that task, Yeshua understands. What does Yeshua understand that he has to do in order to accomplish that task? How does he have to save humanity from humanity, from sin, from the corruption of?
Laying down his
Ezekiel
life.
is the good shepherd who will lay his life down for us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. What kind of leader?
Servant.
The leaders, the kingdoms of the ancient Near East, they have this shared image that the king, he's our shepherd. He shepherds us. And so just as the shepherd leads the flock and protects the flock and maintains the flock, you don't kill too many. You can kill for the feast, yes, but if you kill both the mommy sheep and the baby sheep, there's going to be a problem. So therefore, you don't kill both generations. You manage the flock so that the flock can prosper, and as the flock prospers, you will also prosper. So good governance. That how should you govern? With wisdom. So the king is the shepherd. That's a shared image that the nations have. The king is a shepherd, and if the shepherd is a good shepherd, he will manage the flock so that the flock is not exploited and diminishes, but the flock grows and expands. How do you do that? Ezekiel that you gave to us is going to be counterproductive. The vision of God given entrusted in Israel is apparently counterproductive. Because human beings, we want to glorify ourselves. We grow. We are expanding. But the king of Israel, and God gives the wisdom to Israel to say, what is a good shepherd? We all agree that what we want is a good shepherd. We all agree that to prosper, we need a shepherd, and he needs to be good. What do we disagree about? Is understanding what is a good shepherd. The revelation given to Israel is that a good shepherd puts his own life down. I serve the flock, so the flock can serve me. I serve the flock. How do I serve the flock? I put my life down. And Yeshua demonstrates this in a powerful way. He demonstrates what is a good shepherd. To put your life down is anti-human. It's anti-biology. Everything about God's design of my humanity is so that I will live and not die. I'm controlled. Back here is this powerful control of I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I will stop everything I do, and when it comes to a certain extreme, I will stop everything in order to fulfill my physical need of hunger, of thirst. I have other needs. I need shelter. I need to procreate. And these biological needs will make sure I fulfill my human need. But without the Word of God, without God's instruction, how will I probably fulfill those needs? How will I meet my need to have shelter, to eat, to procreate? My biology. Well, I might do so at the expense of others.
Then you do it.
What?
Don't do it in your there are no rules, so you can do whatever you want.
However, I don't need you. No, I need you, and I'll exploit you to serve my needs. We're all greedy. We're created. Sorry. We're all selfish. We're created selfish, and we only need to look at our precious ones to know we're designed to be selfish. Everything is about me. That's God's design. Everything is about me. Maturity is understanding responsibility. That is about serving others. That's maturity, right? And that's the gift of God's word, his commandments, his instructions, his teaches. It teaches us that to be greedy in my selfishness is counterproductive. I will not succeed.
Leads to your own destruction.
It leads to my own destruction. Exactly. The best way to serve my needs is by serving my family, serving my community, serving my civilization. As the flock grows, we prosper. And therefore, it's counterintuitive. My biology will do everything to make sure I don't die. Right? If I try to hold my breath, I try to stop breathing, is it possible to choke myself without using any tools?
No.
Right? Has designed our biology to overrule the will to stop breathing without any tools. It's impossible. I can learn to hold my breath, and I think that there's a certain people in the Philippines who can do so longer than anybody else on the earth. You can train to do so for a long time.
The bajau.
Who?
The bajau, the ones that,
Those guys.
they can
So
dive.
that's why they say cowards float.
That was fun. That's great. Right. So Yeshua is demonstrating that the Good Shepherd, the King of Israel, ultimately is putting his own life down. But he does so in such a way that teaches his disciples to do as he does.
Yeah.
So therefore, teaching his disciples that what is the greatest love? What is the ultimate act of love?
To lay down one's life for his friend.
That is the most impossible thing. Right? The hardest thing is to do what is anti-nature. My nature is to make sure that I live. Now you're teaching me that the ultimate love is to put my life down for. But isn't that something that you will do without thinking for your wife and for your
Yeah,
daughter?
for a daughter, yeah.
Right? That's the nature of God in us, the image of God in us, the character of God in us. But I'm sorry to say, not all cultures are this way. How many cultures will require their wives to die with them? How many cultures will put their children through the fires of sacrifice? It's happening right now. in Israel.
Abortion.
And such as abortion. I can't be bothered. I love my life so much that sex is for my pleasure.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
But
Love your neighbor as yourself.
which one will we choose?
First, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength, and with all of your mind.
And all of your resources.
Resources.
Strength, me'od. What you quoted for us, the last one is me'od. It's translated as strength. And that's good.
Oh.
But me'od means a lot. Me'odecha. It means everything. And so it's properly understood as your resources. All your
okay.
resources.
Everything you
Is your
have.
strength. Everything that you have. That's your strength. All of your resources.
I like the definition of meekness that I heard before. Meekness is strength under control. So like what you said about Yeshua, he can ask the Father to send his angels and destroy these people. He can, but he chose not to, and that is meekness. It's not because you are weak, but you chose to be weak, and that's meekness.
That's so important. Now apply that to our war in Israel right now. What is our new allies and our potential allies? What are they hoping to see from Israel right now in the war?
Wipe out the enemy in one stroke.
Are you strong enough? We know you're capable of doing it. Are you strong enough to do it? Are you strong enough to actually carry out the difficult action of wipe out the enemy? Or will you submit under the pressure, under the will of everybody else, including our boards too. Saudi Arabia, like all others, like Jordan, like Egypt, all saying the same thing that the world is saying. Oh, those poor people. How could you do this? How could you be so barbaric to? But that's what they're saying. What do they want to see? I want to see you do it.
Wow.
And because everybody knows is that all the people in civilian clothes are Hamas, are ISIS, are Palestinian Jihad.
There's one video they're showing that they bombed children,
Yeah.
civilian children. So are you saying that those are really Hamas?
There's the big Muhammad and the little Muhammad. And both big Muhammad, you can see he didn't hold the gun. Little Muhammad goes out to see, oh, there's the target. Because the target won't, they know the target won't kill little Muhammad because of their values, Western values of valuing life above all else. Why do we value life above all else? Because the Torah teaches us that in humanity is the image and likeness of God. And therefore each individual human being is of intrinsic value beyond all others. But we don't all have the same culture. That's our culture. Their culture knows that, knows to exploit the weakness of that. That Israeli soldiers are not willing to purposefully kill the child. So therefore send the child to spot the enemy, so to know where to fire that RPG. So to know where the sniper to shoot. You need to have vision. You need to know where is the enemy. And the enemy is not going to kill the child. So they use the child, little Muhammad, as a soldier. Little, but why use that not only to exploit the weakness of the IDF's values, but also when he's dead, you exploit who else's values. The world cares about the children. The world hates to see any civilian, especially children.
No, Israel's the enemy in the media, in social media.
So the world is now demonstrating we hate to see people die unless they're Jews. Because everybody's forgotten about
They
it.
don't care, you know. The Israel also lost their children.
They don't care
And
that
elderly
our children and our
to
women are
Hamas.
still taken as hostages and are still being used as hostages. They don't care.
Yeah.
The sad part, in my Facebook, I have friends who support, Palestine and stop the killings, etc.
Right.
The social media.
That's where the war is happening, because the war is happening in the opinions, the hearts and minds of the nations, and that is the kind of pressure. That's what has moved the United States for this election year, because current administration is going to lose. So they need to be. How are they going to be winning elections? All right, this is how you win elections. And so Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Egypt, but especially Saudi Arabia, because we don't yet have a peace treaty with Saudi Arabia. We were very close before this war started, and that's part of why this war started, to prevent us from achieving peace with Saudi Arabia. Why does Saudi Arabia want to now change and make peace with Israel? Why do they want this? What is Saudi Arabia's problem?
They don't have resources.
They are working on that problem. There's a bigger problem. They want us to help them with that problem,
Yes.
but they also want us to solve another bigger problem. What's their bigger problem? They have an enemy on their border. Iran is a bigger problem. Iran is Shia, Saudi is Sunni.
I see.
They want to kill each other.
Shiite and Sunni.
Shia and Sunni. Iran wants to be the dominant power, also over Islam.
That's why Iran started the war.
No. Iran was planning the war. And Iran would have been much more successful had their proxy been able to hold their their finger for the trigger.
I see.
And perhaps,
Trust-
perhaps that's the reason why they made the ISIS, right?
Yes.
Islamic State of Iran and Syria.
Of Iraq and Syria.
Yeah, Iraq and
Yes.
And
They-
maybe
but-
they couldn't hold their trigger because they want the glory also.
Also, yes, but they also saw the opportunity of a party in the desert on their border. They saw the opportunity that Israel's weak, they're infighting. They saw the opportunity thinking the IDF is, the soldiers are not going to fight.
Mm.
Hamas thought this was the right time. They were supposed to wait until all the powers around us, all the proxies, would fight at the same time. Carry out October 7th all around our borders and within our borders, and fire the rockets all at once, exhausting our defensive within one day. And they carried out by themselves, thinking that they would force the others to join early.
Uh-huh. So that's a blessing in disguise.
What?
That was a blessing in disguise.
That's how you look for what to be grateful for in the impossibility of being grateful.
Yeah.
No one can be grateful for October 7th until you realize October 7th was meant to be happening all throughout Israel and all around and within.
Mm.
That it was supposed to be on a much larger scale.
So are you saying that October 7th could have been Israel surrounded by its enemies?
It was supposed to be. We know it. We have the plans of Iran's plans that were for all of their proxies surrounding and within Israel. It was supposed to be everywhere. It was supposed to be simultaneous all at the same time.
Oh.
Hamas jumped the gun. And so back to Saudi Arabia, their problem is Iran. And also what you said, they want to modernize. Israel knows how to modernize. Technologically, civilizationally, agriculture, everything. Therefore, the willingness to make peace with Israel, both as a powerful opposition to Iran, because America is weak right now, not willing. Also for the development of technology, and the development of civilization to prosper. So therefore, Israel is a good ally, but now Israel has to pass the test. And the test is strength. We all know you have the tools. You have the strength and the resolve to use the tools. And that comes back to your statement, all right? About what it is to be meek, what it is to be humble. Is you have a sword, and therefore your enemy, they know that you know how to use your sword, they will be afraid, and therefore maybe not fight. That's how you maintain peace, by having a sword and knowing how to use it. But you have a sword and are unwilling to use it. That is what has made the West weak right now, because we're unwilling to use. We know we have the sword. We know how to use it better than anyone else, but we are unwilling to use it. And now that's the test that Israel has to pass with Saudi Arabia. Are you willing to use the sword? The whole world is against you, trying to force you by every means, social media, International Court of Justice, the United States, every means,
Provocation.
prevent you from using your sword. Do you have the strength to be independent enough to use it when you need to use it, and not only know how? That is how the principle of humility and meekness. How will you inherit the earth? You need to have the tool. You need to know how to use it. You need to be willing to use it. But back to the moral question that comes from the Torah, because that's an old thing. But what makes the difference between Israel and Saudi Arabia and Iran? What makes the difference between Israel and Iran? Iran is very willing to use it, and Iran is saying that we will use it. We don't have it. We don't have atomic weapons. We don't have the most powerful weapons. We're willing to use it. We want to use it. We will use it. What makes the difference between Islamic Iran and all the rest of the Islamic world that don't have the atomic weapons and Israel? Why have we not used it? What makes the
Morality.
difference? What?
Morality, maybe.
Where do we gather our moral and ethical
Torah.
Torah.
from the Torah that teaches us between good and evil?
Amen.
That's the difference. That's the cultural comparison, the religious comparison, the kingdom comparison. Back to Babylon the Great. You have this sword.
So
Yeah.
does this relate to how Yeshua said, those who live by the sword die by the sword?
Yeah.
Got it.
How do you take the throne? By the sword. Somebody that eventually is going to be more powerful than you. Persia will take Babylon in a single day, without a fight. They come in, they're more powerful, they just take the city. Greece will defeat Persia eventually. Rome will defeat Persia. There's always going to be somebody more powerful because as you become the best, that means that your competitors know the standard to
Yeah.
rise up to
Mhm.
and overcome. So therefore, it's always getting greater. The tools of war and the strategy of war is always getting bigger and better. So there's always going to be somebody to outdo you. Therefore, you have to have a different foundation altogether. And our foundation is based on what is coming back to you, the good shepherd puts his life down. But not, when do you not put your life down?
Mhm.
When Yeshua faced Rome, he chose to put his life down in order to save humanity from corruption of sin, corruption of moral corruption. That sin leads to our death. We have to resolve that problem first. And then, well, before Yeshua ascended to the heavens, he'd already accomplished. He defeated death. He rose from the dead. He defeated death forever. And removing the sting of death, of sin. So he accomplishes that. And now he's going to ascend. Acts chapter 1. He gathers the disciples together on the Mount of Olives. And then what did the disciples ask him? Remember what the disciples were looking for, what they're asking him? Do you remember? What did they think and hope the time is for, that he is now going to do? Is now the time that you are going to restore the house of David, the fallen tent, the kingdom of Israel? Is now the time that you're going to establish the kingdom of Israel? And instead of doing that, he ascends to the heavens. He's saying the time is not yet.
Yet.
It doesn't say no. It doesn't say, when are you going to get it? It's not about you. It's not about the kingdom of Israel. The church has to replace Israel, you idiots. It's the wrong. You guys failed. It's Rome, Christian Rome. Is that what he says? No, he doesn't correct them in terms of their hope. If you say your hope is wrong, he says your time is wrong. Time's not now. There's more that has to be. The history of that image of Babylon the Great is not yet done.
Yeah.
We're in the iron time.
I see.
There's still another kingdom to rise that is iron and clay together. That's not yet. There's still more to come. And so when that iron and clay mixed together comes, the end of that last phase comes, the stone will be cast against it. Messiah himself will be cast against it. It will defeat it. And now apply back to Revelation. As it is introduced in chapter 14, Babylon the Great, obviously Rome. But wait a minute, there's more to come. Finally, what?
Perhaps the 10 months who will be the allies of Rome.
The kingdom has to continue to develop. Rome will become Christian. And Christian Rome has to have its time. And eventually, that kingdom will come to an end. What is introduced in chapter 14, ultimately in chapter 20, we'll have the final battle of Armageddon. The final battle where all the nations of the kingdom of the power gather together, and the final battle in Israel, unfortunately, in Israel. And finally, it's only at that final battle where now you have God himself fighting against the nations who gather against Israel. God himself fights. So that war comes. That battle happens. That, just to be clear, when Yeshua puts his sword down, it's for that to defeat the first great enemy, and that's sin and death itself. The next battle is using the sword. He does fight against those nations. And he comes, Yochanan sees him coming as a mighty conqueror. And he sees him with the sword, and he sees him leading the army, and he sees him destroying the armies that come against Israel. So it's not saying the way which it has been, Yeshua is a pacifist, he puts his sword down. No.
He just knows his time. He knows his time.
There's a time for it. Right now is not. But when the time does come,
He will use it.
He uses the sword. So therefore requires the moral question. And then with clarity in the moral question comes the time question. When is the time?
Yeah.
There's a time for peace, and there's a time for war. What is the time now? That's the question.
I have a question.
Oh, good.
Do you have a timeline? Like, of course, we cannot do you have like a timeline?
Sequence of events.
An assumption.
I have a secret to tell you.
The secret.
The secret is time is now. No, people, whoever studies Revelation with me ultimately gets very frustrated. Because everybody wants the timeline.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know, when is Armageddon? When is Gog and Magog?
Yeah.
And we've had the answer given to us at time and again, and they've always been wrong.
Yes.
And so I dare not even try. But what we want to do is understand the concept.
Yeah.
And we've only looked at one aspect of the concept. Why does John use Babylon specifically? We've only looked at one aspect of Babylon. There's a whole other aspect to it that I think that maybe it's time to not. I think we've done enough. What time is it, by the way? It's
12:03.
It's right now. It's only 12:03. Oh, I'm sorry. I was supposed to stop half an hour ago.
It's like we're just in the introduction.
But yeah, it is really just looking at the big picture. We haven't looked at the detail. So we should stop now. But what's important is to get the concept. And that's what's important.
Maybe later we can tackle that.
We'll see.
It's not knowing when, but it's knowing that you're you have to start going. You're ready. And then when the time comes, you know that's it.
Yeah, yes. So to recognize, I need to know what time so that I know what to do, what not to do.
What season we are in right now.
Not to be deceived.
But based on that image, we're in the fifth part.
Yeah.
So great first session.